This red velvet cake has the softest, most perfect texture. Hints of chocolate and vanilla, it pairs perfectly with the fluffy cream cheese frosting. Red velvet cake is in a category of its own. It isn't vanilla cake, nor is it chocolate. It doesn't have the same texture either. It's soft and almost velvety like the name suggests, as well as having the smallest hint of tanginess from the buttermilk. There is a reason why this cake is so popular, you have to try it. Start with a large bowl. It's easy to make this cake by hand, but you can also make it in your stand mixer if you would prefer. Measure out the butter, 3/4 cup, and add to the bowl. Make sure it's at room temperature so it's not too difficult to mix. To the butter, add the granulated sugar and beat the ingredients together until light and fluffy. If you're doing this by hand like me, it should only take about 2 to 3 minutes. Just definitely make sure your butter is super soft. If you would like the full recipe for this red velvet cake, it will be on my website as well as the full measurements listed below. Let me know if you've ever tried making red velvet before. I've got a recipe for red velvet cupcakes and red velvet truffles on my channel, which I'll have linked if you would like the recipe. To the creamed butter and sugar, crack in 2 medium-sized eggs, one at a time, beating well in between each addition. It'll look a little like scrambled eggs initially, but continue to mix until the batter has a smooth consistency. After adding the second egg, measure out the vanilla and colouring. About a teaspoon of vanilla extract or essence, make sure to get a good quality one for the best flavour. For the colouring, there are 2 different types you can choose, liquid or gel. I'm using gel as it's what I have on hand, but liquid works just as well. Depending on what you're using, you'll need different amounts, so I'll have the measurements for using both in the recipe below and on my website. Mix the ingredients together until everything is well combined and you're left with a very bright red batter. Set the bowl to the side. Part of what separates red velvet cake from other flavours is it contains buttermilk as well as vinegar. These ingredients give the cake a tangy undertone of flavour, while also creating the texture they're known for. Buttermilk is best, but it's also something you don't always have sitting around in your fridge, so if you don't have any, you can substitute milk and add double the amount of vinegar to the recipe. Mix the buttermilk and vinegar together, set it to the side for about 5 minutes to react. Let me know if there are any other cake recipe suggestions you would like to see here on my channel. I'm planning on making my favourite carrot cake soon, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. Place a sieve over the top of the mixing bowl and measure out the dry ingredients. The flour, cocoa powder, baking soda and salt. You can place the dry ingredients into a clean bowl and use a whisk to mix through instead, but I find this method quicker and easier. Make sure you do one or the other, as both cocoa powder and baking soda tend to clump. Measure out the flour, 1 1/3 cups, followed by the cocoa. You'll need 3 tablespoons, which is much less than if you were making a chocolate cake. The cocoa powder deepens the flavour and also the colour of the cake without overpowering. This recipe also uses baking soda in place of baking powder. The cake contains a lot of acid from the buttermilk as well as the vinegar, which is going to react with the soda, creating the red velvet texture. Finally, add a pinch of salt to round out all the flavours. Sieve the dry ingredients into the bowl using a spoon to break up any lumps left over. Pour over the buttermilk mixture and use a wooden spoon to fold the cake batter together until combined. Be careful here to not overmix, stop as soon as you no longer see any dry flour. Pour the cake batter into a 7-inch or 20cm cake tin and place in a 180°C or 350°F oven for 35 to 40 minutes or until a skewer comes out clean. Cool the cake in the pan for about 10 minutes before transferring to a wire rack. Traditionally, a red velvet cake is served with a tangy cream cheese frosting. For me, I don't think you can have red velvet without cream cheese, it just doesn't work. So while the cake is baking, get started on the frosting. This is my go-to recipe for cream cheese frosting or icing, so you can also use it for carrot cake, banana cake, or anything else you would like. In the bowl of a stand mixer, or a large bowl if you're using a hand mixer, add the room temperature butter and cream cheese. Some recipes use just cream cheese and some use both. I like using both as it gives a much better texture and consistency to the frosting. Beat the butter and cream cheese together for about 5 minutes, using a spatula to clean down the sides of the bowl a few times until it is super light, fluffy and whipped. Measure out the icing sugar or powdered sugar, these are the same ingredient, just different names, and add to the bowl a cup at a time, beating well in between each addition until all the sugar is fully incorporated. You should be left with a super light and fluffy frosting. I find it can be quite soft, making it hard to work with, so if you have time, place it into the fridge for about 30 minutes to an hour before decorating the cake. I like to make layer cakes, so I've repeated the red velvet cake recipe 3 times to get 3 cakes. You can also do this, but just a single layer is just as tasty and so much easier to make. Use a bread knife to level out the cake, saving the cutoffs to decorate later. Place the cake on a cake stand and use an offset spatula to smooth over the cream cheese, optionally adding more layers of cake. Crumble up the offcuts of the cake and sprinkle over to decorate. Cut a slice of cake and enjoy. Share a picture with me if you make this, I would love to see your recreation. Thank you for watching and I will see you in my next video.